Thank you for this wonderful video. If you guys would like to learn more about the projects that he's worked on various mental health projects, so I urge you all to go connect with him and learn more about his work. He's dedicated a lot of hours to making this possible, and he continues to contribute back to our community with his own art. Thank you again.
Now, I want to welcome back Kailash. He will be hosting the rest of our conference from today. I do want to say, though, he may definitely have more personality than me, but I'm definitely the better host here, so.
That seems like a challenge here now. Okay, so hello everyone, I am Kailas, as Kamala mentioned. So welcome back, and hopefully all of you had fulfilling lunch. So we will get this started right again. So we are going to get into breakout session. Unfortunately, one of our speaker, Dr. Vikas Sharma, could not be here due to some technical reasons, but we are having two breakout sessions, one here in this main floor, led by Mr. Take Nepal. The breakout session will focus on intergenerational mental health. So how does the mental health that our parents face relate to the mental health challenges that youth faces? And other breakout sessions will be led by Mr. Sudarshan Pekurel in Conference 1. We'll show you where Conference 1 is in a little bit. That breakout session will focus on how to manage your daily essential stresses, right? So whichever breakout session sounds interesting to you, we request that you go to those breakout sessions. If you want to stay here for intergenerational breakout session, the breakout session will happen here. But if you want to go to the breakout session on how to manage daily stress, that will be happening over there in Conference 1. So we will be in the breakout session for about 30 minutes. The speakers of respective breakout room will lead their delegation. So yeah. Up in the stage, I request Mr. Take Nepal, but Mr. Sudarshan Pekurel, if you could go to Conference 1, and I think some people will be joining you there too. So I think this is the time to start heading into breakout sessions. If you want to go to breakout session on how to manage daily stress, please go to Conference 1. And if you want to stay in the intergenerational mental health challenge breakout room, the breakout room will be happening here in this space. Okay, I give the floor to Mr. Take Nepal to lead this breakout room for intergenerational mental health challenge.
Hello, everyone. I would like to start with a small chant of Om. If you can all follow or just close your eyes and say, Om. Short one, not very long. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kailas. And my name is Take Nepal. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I have come from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this morning. So before I start, I would like to thank Srijana Bastola, who introduced me to BCCO, I guess, right? So she knew that I was I had some basic knowledge of mental health since I had been through, I have a small certification from peer support specialist in Pennsylvania. So she might have discussed this with Mr. Sudarshan from here, and they invited me as a guest. So I lived in Pennsylvania, so I have a lived story to tell. My life started from Bhutan when I was disqualified for college, where only 60% of the total scoring would get college in Bhutan at that time, and I had 58.9%, and I was disqualified. So the life starts stressing from there. Then I have to go. At that time, there were very few kids with ICSC, pass outs in the village. The government picked me up from the village to get a job. They sent a police actually from Jongkhag. They sent police and picked me up. My father was a GAP, Mandal, and two of you already know Nepal Mandal from Neoli, Gangaram, Nepal, who had a band back, if you remember. So what happened is, I didn't go to college after that. I was picked up for a job. Then I worked until July 1990 in a government job under Ministry of Home Affairs. I was a upper desk clerk in Jakar Jong Bumthang in Jongla office. And so I maintained all the administrative things in there. We fled the country, we came to Nepal. I left my kids behind. Then they came after 6 months with somebody else. There was a stress again. So there was no camps. So I stayed in Haria Budabare and then back to Gauriganj, in many places in Nepal. And I worked for somebody's farm. At the time, there was no idea of teaching in school till then. Then people started coming to Mai. Then I went back to Maidar and registered myself, and I started teaching when there was the Caritas came up with the Mr. Gurung's support. Then we started teaching from there. Then I went to Camp Belangiwan. I see my early teaching experience student, one of here, Mr. Dilly, sitting in front of me there. He's one of my students there. When I was a teacher, he was a kid. Not kid, but he was just going to school. So, other than that, I have to tell you a real story here, making it short. I have joined this karate in 1992 fall with two of my colleagues right there, Mr. Yam and Stula, they are there. And I was taking care of my 3 kids, 2 sons and 1 daughter. In 1999, during the Teej, next day after the Dar, it will be the fasting day, right? Puja day, Puja fasting day. I lost my 3-year-old daughter early morning around 6:15 on that day. I was walking her, she caught my right hand finger here, and we were walking together. There was only 5 to 6 inch gap in between me and her. A big tree fell upon her. A big tree fell upon her, hit right here, and this much of her face was under the earth. So, what if Dad would do that? I just shouted for help. And people from nearby houses, hearts rushed to me. Only 13 to 15 people could lift the trunk of the tree. It was this big, around 3 foot in diameter, I guess. I rushed, carrying her down to the health center, but later I found out I didn't make there. Me and my daughter was found unconscious on the ground by a bicycler who was passing by. He picked my daughter and rushed to the hospital, health center, and I was left there. Then when I got into back to my consciousness, then I found her like she was already declared dead. And she was sent for postmortem to Bhadrapur. Then my brother accompanied me. You might know Santiram Nepal, who was shot dead in 2009 in Building 1. That's my eldest brother. And he told me, hey, you know what? If you take this dead body to Building 1 camp, you know what is going to happen? Your wife will lose her life too. There are so many people, hundreds of people gathered there. They will be saying, Ami, Honi, Ami. Then instead of like giving her some courage, they will all be giving all these things. And I don't think she will live. Then we decided to bury her in Maidar. On the way back, it was 9 p.m. already when we got back and collected all the bricks, sands, and gravel, cement, and everything. And we left her behind in Maidar, and I went home. Then there was no answer. My wife asked, where is she? Then I started running around like heart to heart in the gaps, and I tried to avoid her from me, keep her away. And my brother controlled that situation. He tried to convince. Then we finished her rituals and everything, all funeral things and everything. Then my wife was like, she didn't know where she was. So I could at least realize, people come for those who are born we have to die one day, one way or other. I tried to convince her, it was hard. Then on the 42nd day of her pass away, my mom passed away. So losing a child, losing a mom, relatively, it was hard. Then I started smoking. I started smoking a lot, a pack of cigarettes a day to avoid, but it didn't work. Then I started thinking myself, I was teaching in Building 1, and so many things happened in between, but my dad was a real mentor. He was a counselor too, a good counselor. So he said, hey, what are you thinking of? Think of your kids who are left behind. If it was not your daughter, if that was you, what would have happened to this family? Who would make money and who would survive to survival? So that really made a turning point for me. And I got normal after mom's passed away. Then I started saying same thing to my wife, and gradually, she also got thing. And I was with karate and doing things. I played volleyball. Many of you know. Mr. Dilly knows that I was a good player too. So I played volleyball. I played badminton, everything. So getting into karate and doing things, engaging in the community, serving people, my stress was gone. I don't remember. Once a year only, maybe during the Tees time, the time that she passed away. Then today I'm here just to let you know that everybody has mental status. Some people all have mental stress. Everybody has mental stress. And I have been to school for pharmacy technician. I'm a certified pharmacy technician. I have worked 8 years, and I'm a peer support specialist. I worked with Dr. Kenneth Thompson in Pittsburgh, who is a very renowned psychiatrist. And he used to send me to people's house. He said, hey, go there and meet these people, meet and greet, and I have the medication, but you have to give me the cause. Don't try to make them up. Try to go deeper down to the root. What caused them this bad? Treating it easy, but finding the cause is very difficult. If you know the cause of what made them feel like that, that will help me to treat them well. Otherwise, you say, we have no blood work for this. We have no any scans for this. for mental illness. So we listen to the story and we study their behavior and we treat. It is very hard. And the interpretation, he said, now also he calls me for interpretation. He said, wrong interpretation will give wrong treatment. People with mental health. So I would like to share one like a small, experience having wrong interpretation. Say, भित्रैबाट कटकटी खान्छ. भित्रैबाट, I don't know how to say that. If you take your kid, like a high school kid, or your like things to school, like interpretation, they don't know. Even the Nepali, those who came from Nepal, not from Bhutanese, Nepali interpreter online, their language, the word they use are very vague. Our people do not know, our old people do not know what is Hridayaghat even. And they will say, Hridayaghat भएको छ कहिले काहीँ Hridayaghat कहिले काहीँ हुन्छ. उच्च रक्तचाप छ तपाईलाई भने बुझ्दैन हाम्रो. They don't understand. You know. So sometimes the phone interpretation does not work. So if there is a Bhutanese interpreter for Bhutanese, that's far better. That's far better. Nepali interpreter लगाउनु भयो. I think we all understand English. So using a Nepali interpreter, Nepali I mean from online interpreter, for a Bhutanese old generation people is going to be tough. They don't understand everything. So this is one thing to be noted, that we need that one. So I have few points here to go. So I have visited so many families in Pittsburgh, those who have this problem. I have found the causes. Few. Working parents came here, 42, 45, 48, 50. Like I came, I was 43 when I came here. And what happened here after resettling? When they got here, there was language barrier. People, those who are already 50s or 45 plus in camp, most of them, they didn't go to school. They only know yes or no, headache and fever only. They don't know more than that. They stopped working. So in Nepal, even they go for construction work, they used to have pocket full of money. So after getting here, they don't have work. Then they have small kids or some, maybe one or two, working kids. And the one who works has to pay all the expenses. They don't have extra money at the beginning. And the pocket is empty, they can't go to work, there is like transportation problem, there is language barrier, so many things. And people start staying at home and remote and couch, and they prefer to watch like same kind of like movies. People having problem, those who are like fighting, all these things. And that starts there. I have seen this. And other than that is, the kids when they're grown up, now what is going on is like, hey dad, you are working, mom is working, and we don't have insurance. I need my eyeglass. There's no insurance. I need to go to doctor, see doctor. And they will have their parents quit the job and stay home for insurance. And that starts again for medical condition. This is one thing I have found it. I have a very good family experience with this. And for this, what I have learned is a WRAP program, WRAP, which is Wellness Recovery Action Plan. So Wellness Recovery Action Plan under mental health is like what they say is family hangouts, communication, talking over the phones. And dad says, Mr. Balbadur, Bale, One of my childhood friend is in Illinois, and I want to see him. And the son will say, "Huh? I have job to do. I cannot take you." And he will not even provide a phone number or something. Then daddy starts saying, "These kids are not really listening to me. This boy is bad." And he will not talk to his son again. Isolation, separation. Then he will isolate from everybody. That's for the older generation. For the younger generation, teenagers, what I have found is like, oh, my son is in the room, he's good with his iPad, he's playing there. 1 day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So his uncle came home, his aunt came home, his grandma came home. He did not see anybody. Only he knows his iPad or phone. Parents think that that is the best friend for him. Now that kid going to high school will get same kind of company. And the kids already there with some other bad, things, they will get touched. And from there they start their bad days start there. I have seen this. So, a message to parents of the teens, high school and lower grades. I have 3 kids, and I have 11-year-old grandson. My wife is stressed, still depressed, not that extent, but still she needs care. And my 11-year-old grandson is autistic. He is severe. He will throw, he will hit, he will do, but I make it. I am a owner of our home health, and I manage 3 stores, 7-Eleven. I do karate. I'm a black belt too. I teach, I run a class. I have a club school going on. There are my friends sitting there with the jackets. And it's all about us, for the young generation. You manage your time. Learning karate, martial arts helps you. Then I came to California to Nashville, Nashville to Pittsburgh in 2012. I'm making the story short. When I moved from Tennessee to Pittsburgh, I was 209 pounds. 209 pounds. One day I was driving along the road and I got blacked out. I accidentally hit a small pole and I stopped there. I was taken to hospital. I got into conscious next day. I was in hospital and they said my blood sugar level was 725. I don't know, why did I leave? Why did I leave? I don't know. And next to me was my dad who was appointed for his UTI problem. So we were same. And then I realized, I have gained so much weight and I'm diabetic now. After that, I had to push insulin 20 units morning, 20 units evening. I did that for 3 months with 500 mg of metformin. Then after 6 months of running and jogging, my insulin was taken away, discontinued. Then after like 18 months, the metformin went away too. No matter. Now I don't take nothing. I don't. And I was 209 pounds, now I am 158 pounds. I have all those stages, my daughter, my mom, all the struggles through processing, resettlement agency and all the thing, came to California, 2-bedroom apartment, 2008 March. I have to pay $240. Economy was bad. I have 3 kids going to school. My wife, no language, no English, no job. I have to work 7-Eleven, 12 hours, 7 days. I got blisters on my feet. I used to put ice and work at 7-Eleven. And I found out this was not a place for me, so I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. It was easy, but there is no benefit. no like benefit, insurance and other stuff when you first come up here. Then I have to move to Pennsylvania. Then doing all these things in the process, my bottom line is one message for kids like teenagers is never late to join karate. When I joined karate, I was 24 in camp. I didn't join to like come to US and become a black belt or become teacher. We had a dream of going back to Bhutan one day, and if the situation comes, we were preparing to fight back. You know? But it helped me as a life event. It went through. So it's never late to join karate. It keeps your body healthy, your mind healthy. Like, look at Srijana at a small age. She's so great. She's doing karate. So comparing to her, many other kids, those who stay home, laptop, iPad, iPhone, there will be some difference, I guess. There will be, definitely. There will be. I have seen this. So physical exercise will take away your stress, anything that goes through. So, finally, in mental health, in our community, people are not able to express their feeling of mental health, and there are 3 reasons, my findings. One is tag that we get. In Bhutan, we were ngolops. In the camp, we were refugee and bagade. You know bagade, the boiler rice, which people call us the tag. And they don't want to get the 3rd tag as Baula. In our language, they do not say it's a health condition, and they don't think that it can be treated. In older generation, not for the young generation. They don't think it can be treated. Oh, the फल्नाको छोरो त बाउला आएछ नि फल्नाको छोरोले त धतुरो खाएर बाउला आएर छैन अरे. So, thinking that they will be tagged differently, they don't express the mental illness, the mental status. So this tag, but I'm happy because people called me those for my family. In my family, I had this problem. Why I got into mental health is one story. I don't want to say who is that. In my own family, the family that I run had a mental problem. And I have to call resolve crisis several times. And I was a pharmacy technician, and I was having that problem, working and doing. Then Mr. Ashok and Prayankus Subedi, they brought a first aid mental health program first there. Then I attended that. After attending that, I felt that, oh, this is not enough. This is just a basic, just general thing. I have to find out something special for my family. Then I looked at I searched for that online. Then I found a program in the college, CCSE. Then I joined there. Then I got my certification from there. And it helped a lot. Now I am able to, like, if someone is having such kind of, I can go. Peering means it's not like prescribing medication or giving those kind of advices, It's peering. Talk to them. People with mental illness or having some status, they need more connectivity. More you listen from them. You talk less and listen more. Listen to their stories. Listen to their sayings. That will relieve them. Older people, they don't have no one to listen to them. Kids, no Nepali now. Grandkids, no Nepali now. Who is going to listen to them? Their story. My dad was 90 when he passed away in 2017. So I used to come to work at 11:30 and he would be looking from the window and say, when I come, oh, you are here, give me hot water, warm water, give me some sabudana. Then after that, he used to sleep on the bed underneath, I would sleep just on the floor. He would say, tell his story. When I was young, I used to do this. I would say, Then he will be telling a story, I'm slept already because I was tired. In the morning, and he will say, hey, you already slept. I was telling you the story. So you have to listen to them. As if you are listening, if you are, say, 1-2 times, then they will also get to sleep and you also get good sleep. It's kind of like getting people's feelings away, mental status. So, bottom line is like, one issue like taking medication in mental health. Like I have found doctor prescribe medication and people do not understand TDS, BD and all these things, they don't have this language. And anything that is to be taken before meal, with meal, after meal, morning time, evening, bedtime, they don't have no knowledge. Anything they are given for the day, one time, done. Whether it is in the morning or evening. So this was the issue. So I was as a pharmacy technician, I used to go visit them and say, hey, this one is meant for this time. You take with this, metformin take with this, with your food. You have any pantoprazole before food, 30 minutes before food, like kind of thing. I have to explain them. And then say, oh yeah, now I got better. Yeah, that's right. That way it works better. So people, we should at least research. If you type pantoprazole in Google, it will tell you everything. It will throw everything there. So the young kids can do that. And find out whether they are, find a scheduler and put them in the right way. Taking medication wrong time is poison sometimes, it's a poison. So that's one thing also. So finally here, thank you very much, BCCO and whole team for inviting me to speak in front of you all and to share my story. So I have gone through those stress, almost, say, mentally retarded state to today. I am an entrepreneur. I am a social worker. I volunteer all my life. And I am very much thankful for my dad because who showed me, who turned my life into this one. Like he showed me the right path. So there are professionals who knows more about the drugs and medicines, but I am just a storyteller to share you what happens if you do not control or if you do not get a good guidance at the time you need. So let's think about it and get back to community. We are community. So we run a karate school, Druk International Superior Karate. Is international, is nationally run, and we are a non-profit 501c3, and we have 11 schools in the United States, and one runs here, right here in this space, that's Tula Dhakal, every Saturday and Sunday. If you are interested, you can join. Never late. Never late. And I also would like to thank you from bottom of my heart as DISCA Board of Director, and I am a treasurer from DISCA. Also, one important thing is I am the president of Sri Krishna Temple of Pittsburgh. So on entrepreneurship, 3 stores, karate, and president of, so I manage all these myself, I manage it. I have time. You have to have a good timing in your life. Do not waste your time. Every single minute counts. Every single minute counts. So lastly, one thing today I am going through is the one who passed away, committed a suicide yesterday morning is my nephew. Mero Milo Mamako Nati. Thapakkai. Those who know Dilli Wagle, Mukti Wagle from Belangi too, usko kaka saila ko chora. He is my relative, one who committed suicide. So I came there yesterday and went back, and today again came for this, and I will be staying there tonight. So, see, things happen, but I don't want to say take it easy, but let's go situation-wise. Whatever comes, we have to think resilient. The word resilient right there, let's make it over. So that works a lot. Once again, thank you as an individual, and thank you from DISCA Part 2. Thank you very much, BCCO and the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teknipal, for sharing your story and the recent struggles that you've went through. I know that we all have daily challenges and we all are continuously facing something. So I'm so glad that everyone took time to be here and push through and is able to be here and appreciate and take in the knowledge that we're trying to share today. So once again, thank you to the audience and thank you to our speakers for making time to be here. We appreciate you all.
As everyone is coming in, I think the other breakout session is also done. So thank you very much, Mr. Teknipal and Sudarshan Peckerel, for leading their respective breakout room. As everyone is coming in, I will give some opportunities for audience to share some key insight that you learned in your respective breakout room. So a couple from Mr. Teknipal breakout room and couple from Sudarshan Peckerel breakout room. What did you learn from there and what do you want to share to the colleagues that were not here in your breakout room? So if anybody has anything to share, please raise your hand. I'll bring you a mic so you can share some of the thoughts that you learned in your respective breakout room. Okay. Also, kun breakout room didn't mention
All right, thank you for this opportunity. I would like to thank BCCO and this organizing team to, listen to different perspectives on mental health, what resilience is really, and how we are handling this on an individual level, as a family, as a community, and on every level possible. I think everybody has some level of stress in their lives, whether as a student, as a working family parent, or on any level, any roles. There's some stress and that needs to be managed somehow. With whatever Mr. Teknipal shared in this room, whatever he does, how he's been able to manage, go through stresses with the loss of a child, and other family members within his own family, and whatever happened around in the community, because he also was a community volunteer serving around in the community at every event or so. This is kind of, I think, challenging for everyone to first become aware of what they are going through in their own level, and also think of a way to get out of that little cage, to serve as someone who can help others as well. Now, every one of us can do something about it. That's my hope. And I can share what I do. Probably that might be helpful for others. But at the same time, I also want to hear how you are helping manage that stress, mental health, and how it can potentially help each one of us here. Because this is a sharing session, and whatever you share is always helpful for the other person. We may not know that until we see and apply that. So I think this is for especially me. I would start with the journaling every morning. That's what I do. I have different tools are available, how you write it, what you write it, why you write it. But I would begin with a 5-minute journal for myself. A little book with all ideas organized into 3 different sections. You don't have to think early morning, just write it down yesterday before you sleep. What you are going to do tomorrow morning as you wake up. Write it down, say, I want to run out in the morning. I want to get my shoes out. Keep them ready there. I can see as I wake up next morning, they are ready. Just wear them, go. 15 to 20 minutes of sweating, exercise, run, whatever you like it. I think that's just a little thing we can all do every morning. Everyone has 24 hours. No matter where we are financially in our life, that's a guaranteed thing God has given for each one of us, 24 hours. What we do with it depends all on us. Gratitude journal, that's what I do. Reading, writing. It doesn't matter what you write it down. That's what I do. I write 1 page, 2 pages. Don't worry about who will read it. It's yours. Keep it private. No stress there. Just write it down. It's your note, your journal. Take it 1 year later, look at it, feel, and reflect. Who we were 1 year ago and who you are now. I think that's a process every single day. I think walking sessions, walking without talking to anybody, or basically I just called my mom on the phone while walking. I do 2 things at the same time, walking and sweating and talking to my mom. What a good feeling it gives. That's what I do. I also do reading, but engage with my kids as well. Take my boys on the walk, listen to them, let them vent out. They may have a lot of stresses in their student life. This time I missed A+, or next time I need to make it up. Whatever it is, that happens everywhere. We all have kids, and we have heard about it. So little things, I think, matter. I don't want to talk long here, but I want to keep myself engaged. I don't want to think much. There's a lot of stress when you start thinking. So write it down. Writing in paper is powerful. You don't have to think. Write it down on paper. Everybody has a paper. Everybody has a pen. If not, go to Walmart. You find it. It's so much powerful to write down your ideas on paper and next day just implement. Do it. You get a feeling. You have a lot of things to check mark against before you sleep. And a gratitude journal will give a good sleep. Now, is that important for mental health? I hope so. That's what I do every day. Thank you.
So quickly, 1 minute to go in the another session. A person that was in another session, maintaining daily essential stress. If anybody want to share, 1 minute highlight.
So I was in the other session that was led by Sudhar Sandai, and going off of what Mr. Adhikari was saying about maintaining habits, whether it's journaling or going for a walk, we were also touching on same subjects about how keeping a daily routine and being consistent in your habits helped him overcome some of his mental issues. And he was saying, like, if you incorporate anything that you choose, whether it be journaling or writing or meditating, it could also help everyone else too. So that was one valuable thing that I learned.
Thank you, Srishti. So it looks like the breakout session was really fruitful. So we will move right along, and we are getting into the Mental Health America panel. So Mental Health America panel will be moderated by Mira Biswa, a phenomenal high school senior. So round of applause for Mira Biswa here.
Do I call introduce them or my comment?
Yeah, introduce them.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Mira Biswa, and I will be moderating this panel. The first person I want to introduce is Yurjana Bastola. She is a second-year student in Ohio State University, and she She is having a degree in neuroscience. That's her right there. And then one in the blue is Sri Priti. She's also pursuing a bachelor's degree in neuroscience. And then lastly, we have Vidya Karel, which is right here. And she is a determined law, pre-law international studies major in Capital University. In this session, I will just be going over some questions about the DC conference that they all attended, and I'll be just going over general questions of mental health as well. So the first question that I have is, what part of the DC conference did you find the most insightful, and how are you going to use this information in your life?
Hello. Okay, so overall, the experience that we had in DC, I had in DC, it was really nice and informative. But one of the most insightful part for me was the breakout sessions that I attended, and one very memorable breakout session was presented by the Portland Public School District, where they talked about crisis recovery after a hate-based event, and they presented to us like all these innovative techniques and teams that they had to help students in their school district who went through hate-based events. So one of the techniques that I still remember was a anonymous phone call that they could give at any time of the day, and it would be like, if you see a hate-based event or if you yourself experienced one, you are able to call and like anonymously report it.
So for me, I think the most insightful part of the conference that we attended was I really enjoyed and found like the diversity and inclusion that they had. Like that was a part of the conference. So they brought in many different aspects of healthcare in different communities. So for some communities, that might look like physicians and doctors, and for some other communities, that might be tribal leaders that do some healing. And I think I resonated with that in the sense that we also have that, we also have similarities in our culture. So I really enjoyed how they brought in different tribal leaders, how those tribal leaders interacted with their community members, and I think that was very insightful.
I would say for me, one particular thing that I remember that I was very shocked and it was very insightful for me was when I was in a breakout room. We were talking about the many social determinants of health. Well, not social, but more so environmental, and they were touching on how climate change can also impact someone's health. A whole group of people, actually. We were talking about climate change in the Caribbean, and they were saying how the mass flooding and there were many environmental disasters which had a lot of effect on the community's mental health too. And it kind of made me realize that, oh, it's not just social determinants and it's not just familial determinants, it's actually a whole range of things that can impact someone's mental health. So I think that was very insightful.
Yeah, all of it seems very insightful. So the second question I have is, have you faced any mental health struggles in your personal life and kind of what you learned from those experiences?
So personally, I think all of us, we're all college students. We're bound to facing stress and all these things due to exams, and just our identity being refugees and immigrants as well. I think that comes with its separate stress. So just from that identity, I personally have had a lot of stress, but I have also found ways to kind of help me cope with that and deal with daily life as well.
Me personally, I am really grateful that I have not yet experienced any serious mental health issues, but I know a lot of my peers who have, and them persevering through it has really inspired me as well. And I think that's for me, it's because I have a really supportive family, I would say, and really nice, good community leaders as well that I can rely on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the third question that I have is, what issues have you seen arise in our community personally, and what do you think would be most beneficial to help them?
I can start. So within our community, I think the overarching theme that I've observed is it all ties down to mental health, hence the conference. But like we've noticed, like many youths just staying in their bedrooms, not socializing. That all ties to mental health, and even with the adults, I think like from like so far from the conference, we've seen a lot of like storytelling, and with that, I think a lot of adults are not given the space to like tell their stories. So I think like that is one of the biggest issues in our community. People don't have places, or they don't have like a place to like share their stories, and youths also don't have a place to come and collectively share their stories, talk to each other. So with that, there's just a lot of problems going on in our community, and
One of the biggest issues that I have seen, like growing up in our community and in the Coloma City School District, is how a lot of our youth are really involved with drug abuse and alcoholic substances abuse. And I feel like having more conferences like this about mental health and the importance of like checking up on your children, making sure they are like, actually attending school and not like skipping school to go get drugs and get high and stuff, but not in a way where you like yell at them and be like, I just school goodness or anything like that, but more like have like the parent side actually like learning how to have nice and smooth conversation with their children, so their children are also like open with them.
Okay, I think those are all very insightful points, and I think this conference will be a little asset to help through those problems. The next question I have is, to what extent do you think that mental health should be taught to the youth, and do you think it should be mandated in schools or not?
I definitely think that mental health education should be incorporated in our school systems, but I think it should be like more enforced than it is now, because from what I've experienced, schools will try to initiate something, so they'll have students come in and they'll say like, oh, mental health is important, but they don't really take active steps to ensure that every student is actually doing well mentally. So although they do have that initiation of like, oh, they recognize that mental health is important, they should also take the active steps and, like have more accountability as well. So I think that would be nice.
I also agree with Shrishti in the sense schools should mandate mental health. And I believe one way they should do it is like maybe having like a class, just how health is a class and it's mandated for every high schooler to they need that credit in order to graduate. I think mental health should also be like a separate class in its own, and people should be required to take it, so that not just like for themselves but for the community as well. Once they like get out of high school, they're going to need to engage with community members. They're going to need to talk to people. And for people that choose to go to college, they're going to be exposed to like a very diverse group. So that will just give them like the ability to interact. And then also the other point is these youths are like experiencing so many changes, like extremely like rapidly too. So I think if we do focus more on mental health and like mandate these classes, maybe their lives could be a lot less stressful, and they can actually like focus and do better in school as well.
I agree with both of the Didis, but something else that I would like to see additionally in our schools is, how we all have like at least a counselor or two in our schools, but I've observed that students tend to not be open with their counselors or like tell how they're honestly feeling, because our counselors are like mandated reporters. So even if you say something, your parents will know about it. And I think we all can acknowledge that between our Bhutanese Nepali children and their parents, there's like this huge gray area, a gap when speaking about mental health. So if we could implement counselors who are not mandated reporters, more like peers who have skills to help you, counsel you, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is a good point, and kind of like relating to that point, my last question is like, how do your parents react personally when you bring out your struggles, even if it's mental health or just like normal struggles, like I'm struggling with like this homework, this and that, and like how does that impact you, the way they respond?
I think for our parents, it's really like difficult for them to be able to support us as well because with like the immigrant and refugee experience, our parents like they come in here not knowing anything. So we like we're trying to like be the bridge between our parents and this like new Western society. So I personally feel like my parents do try to help like support me in the best possible ways, maybe financially, whether that could look financially or maybe keeping me tied to my culture. But in terms of like navigating like the things that I need immediate help with, like college life, stress, and all that, they are dealing with like so many issues themselves. I personally think they are not able to help me in the sense that I need.
For me personally, I find my parents very supportive. They each have their own type of love language. While my mom hers is like words of affirmation. So when I complain to her, like, this homework is so hard, she's like, go ask your sister for help, go ask your brother for help. Or like, I'm like nervous about a debate competition or something, she'll be like, oh, you got this, you can do it, you're good. And my dad, on the other hand, he has that tough love. So he doesn't really like express that he's rooting for me, rather he gets me small like gifts and stuff, like something he won at a raffle in his workplace, he'll be like, oh, it's for my kanji chori.
For me, because my stress kind of manifests physically, so like sometimes I'm not able to eat on time or sometimes I don't get enough sleep, my parents are usually like, oh, make sure you eat, make sure you sleep, I have something for you in the fridge. Just like small care, like acts of care that at the end of the day really mean a lot to someone who's actually very stressed. I think those are tips that my parents use to keep me, very mentally healthy.
Well, I think that would be like the end of all the questions. Thank you to all the panelists and everybody that listened carefully. Thank you.
That was a great panel, and thank you so much, Mira, Srishti, Srizana, and Vidyavini for sharing your insight. So we will move right along. Now we want to welcome Dr. Dinesh Chauhan to share his keynote speech here for the session. So Dr. Dinesh Chauhan, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Dinesh Chauhan. You have seen my bio right in front. First of all, I would like to thank one key person here who has his glasses on and looks very proud. He is Mr. Juma Acharya right there. He was my class teacher when I was in grade 2 in the camps. And here I stand right in front of him. He looks as young as when he was 30 years ago? Okay, all right. I was just checking the time here. Okay, and it's so good to see so much of talent here. I'm very proud of all of you. Just keep going. I have done a lot of talks regarding mental health in the past. I will share my story at the second half of my talk today. The first half is mainly going to be mostly questions that I'm going to ask you. I really want you to answer with a yes or a no very loudly. I want you to think about a couple of things. Do animals feel depressed? Do animals kill themselves because of depression? Do we think so? Okay. Now, what differentiates us from animals? I want you to think about it, and you can think about it and let me know the next time I talk to you again. Now, the second thing I want you to think about is think about the three most important things in your life. Take some time to think about it. And think about what would happen if you lose all of it. All of those three things, whether it be people, objects, anything. Now, how do you feel losing all of those three things in life? That's what our people have gone through for years. I want you to think about that. And that is the weight of mental health. It is not something that lasts for weeks. It's not an infection that lasts for weeks. It crosses generations, and it is very difficult. One of the other questions I had was, we have recently been through the COVID pandemic. I want you to look at the resources and compare it with mental health. Do you think mental health is a disease of the poor? Does it affect the rich? Do we have people with a lot of money who kill themselves? Can it be infectious? Meaning, can it spread? Can the habit spread? Okay. Can it cross continents? Is it limited only to Columbus? Does it go to Cincinnati? Are there depressed people in Africa? Are there depressed people in America? Right. Should it be called a pandemic? From the things we talked about, right? It spread across the globe. It can spread. It does not discriminate. Does it sound something like COVID? Has similar amount of resources been directed towards it, is the question. Okay. Do people who feel depressed get 5 days of leave, which is what we get now, in terms of if you test positive, you have to take off time of work for 5 days, right? And it's paid now. So if you are depressed, do you get 5 days off? Okay. Now, I want you to think about all of these questions. You can keep your answers to yourself, think about it, share it with others. These are the questions that I've always had, when I always think about mental health, is why is it not called a pandemic? Why aren't appropriate resources, like the billions of dollars that was spent during COVID pandemic, why wasn't it allocated to mental health if it's so important? Now, on the flip side of things, does wearing a mask help you? Meaning in terms of depression, about mental health, does not. Is there a single vaccine that works against all people? No. So I want you to just compare it with what we talked about. And this is why mental health is a big problem. In terms of treating it, identifying it, and also explaining about it. Now, I have been in practice, I'm an internist. I have been in practice for over 2 years now. I do get a lot of patients who ask me, when should I be worried about it? I might have some depression, some anxiety, but when should I be worried about it? It's just like you go to see a doctor and you have high blood pressure, they will tell you, take less salt. Now, what does that mean? How much salt are you supposed to take? It's the same thing with mental health. People will ask you, when should I seek for help? Now, the most important thing that I tell people is, does it affect what you do every day, from the time you get up to the time you sleep? Anything. Meaning, do you forget where the bathroom was? You wake up one morning and just go somewhere thinking that it's your bathroom and don't brush your teeth. Or you can't shut down your brain to sleep. Or You're at work and you cannot work, you're thinking about something. You sent an email to someone who you should not have sent. That email should have gone to someone. Now, all the time we're talking about anxiety and depression, most of our people don't know about something called ADHD. It's called attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Now, those are big words. But what I don't want people to do is just focus just on anxiety and depression. That's just not mental health. Mental health is, again, it's mental health. It encompasses a lot of things. So I really want you to think about what questions I had before, and again, take your time. You can take months, years, days, and just think about it, about how you can help someone. Of course, we don't have a vaccine for depression. We don't have a vaccine for anxiety, right? You can't test people with a swab. You can't poke into someone's nose and say, hey, look, you are depressed, right? We have no way of measuring it. The only thing that helps is talking to people, and that's what we have been talking today, is talk to people, try to find out what you have. Now, communities are very used to taking things for granted. We see someone down the street, we'll say, hey, this guy's always like this. We take things for granted. Next day, that guy hangs himself, and you begin to wonder. So, one of the biggest messages that I would like to give is don't take things for granted. Talk to friends, talk to family, talk to me if you want. I'm on Facebook. You can call me. You can talk to me anytime. Now, I would like to share my story. We're running out of time. So I was born in Bhutan. I came to Nepal. Mr. Juma taught me in school here. So my story starts just by saying a couple of things here. I want you to know that I have a very famous quote that I always go back to, is what the brain does not know, the eyes don't see. So if you don't know what depression or what anxiety or what mental health is, you would never see it. So you would never find who has it, or you would never be able to suspect it. So the most important thing starts with educating yourself about mental health. What are the symptoms of anxiety? What is depression? What are the physical manifestations and things like that? So you should first know about it for you to actually see and help someone. Now, when I graduated from high school, I was a refugee in Nepal, and I wanted to go into medicine. The only problem was in Nepal, if you are a Nepali citizen, you're admitted into med school. If you are not a Nepali citizen, you are not. A big bummer for me, because I was not a citizen of any country. I was born in Bhutan, but I was chased out when I was maybe 1 year old. So I was not a citizen of any country, not of Bhutan even. I don't have a Bhutanese passport, right? It's not like people coming from Afghanistan or somewhere where they have a passport of that country. So I had to write a lot of emails and a lot of letters at that time just to be admitted as a stateless person at a renowned school in Nepal. It's called Teaching Hospital. You might have heard about it. So the funny thing was, everyone's nationality there said Nepali. I said stateless, because that's the truth. I was stateless. I was not a Bhutanese citizen. So the med school in Nepal is 6.5 years, because we go directly from high school. There is no undergrad. So when I entered my final year of med school, the resettlement process was closing down, so they gave me two choices. You either get out of the camps right now or stay in the camps, and we'll think about you later on. I spoke with my seniors in school, and they were like, no, you should use this opportunity to go. Because we as Nepalese citizens, we struggle to get to the US. And after going there, we don't know what we're going to do in terms of job, financial security and stuff like that. So then I was like, okay, fine, let me go. But then what happens? I have not graduated, So anyways, long story short, I came to the US, and at that time, the president was Barack Obama, and then there were some issues with DACA and stuff like that. So by 1 year gone by, and I was still trying to find out where I was and what I was doing, because I had not graduated, and I was lost. So when I came here to the US, the first thing I did was try to get back to Nepal and complete my med school. Didn't know the process, how it goes. I did apply for a green card, which got delayed due to the whole DACA drama that was going at that time. So what I was told was if I was 2 years out of graduation from my initial date of departure from Nepal, I would have to restart my entire med school. So I was not willing to take that risk. So, but again, my green cards never showed up either. 2 years was almost gone by. So I decided to Google up things, talk to people. Again, no one knew anything about it, and no one was willing to help. Of course, I was a kid who was a refugee in some remote place, so I had come to New Hampshire. It's a tiny state just above Boston, Massachusetts. So then I decided to just, apply for something called a travel document. Some of you might know about it. Well, the travel document is specifically meant for one-way travel. That's what it said. The website, that's what it said. So I was like, okay, fine, I will apply for it because this looks like the last best option. So I did apply for it. I wrote a letter asking for, expedited processing. The travel document arrived about 2 months in. So I had my flight tickets booked, went to Boston. These guys would not let me out. They said I could not leave the country because it's a one-way ticket. But then I looked at, it looks like a passport. So at the very last page, it talks about what that document is for. Like, for example, in a visa, it says all of those things at the back. So at the very back, it said that it will serve as a re-entry, but at the very bottom, it said it's not guaranteed. So I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. So anyways, I spoke with the people down there now. I want you to understand what I'm trying to say, because perspective is very, very important. What you understand from people is very important. Now, I'll come back to the story, but what I also want you to understand is when I did my residency in Nashville, I trained at a HBCU. It's called a Historically Black College and University. That's what it stands for. Now, I was the only whitish-looking person there, meaning all of my colleagues were African Americans, so I was the only brown person there. There is a survey that the American Association of Medical Colleges, also called as AAMC, sends in to these medical schools every year about how the residency program is. So it's a survey for the residents to take and give feedback. There was a question there that said, how do you feel about your program's diversity? Our program rated it as 0, which means it was the least diverse program. That's what the residents voted. Now, the faculty were confused in a way that they were thinking that it was the most diverse program. Now, I want you to understand the pretext or the context here, which is there were all black people there. I was the only brown person. Now, that is not diversity. We should have. So, now let me come back to the story here. So, finally, I spoke with the immigration officer. I kind of understand that Customs and Border Protection has a lot of turnover, which means it's one of those professions where people just quit the job after maybe 6 or 7 months in the job because they don't get paid more, apparently. So I kind of knew that, so I spoke with the guy who was talking to me, and I told him, hey, I want to talk to your superior, and then we discussed, and then finally they allowed me on a flight out. So then I was in Nepal. I finished my medical school there about 4 months was left behind, so I came back. And when I came back, if you have traveled outside, there is the port of entry for flights entering the US is a different floor in outside airports. So I flew in through Turkey, and in Istanbul I was stopped. So my flight came from Kathmandu to Istanbul, and then Istanbul to Boston. So at the Boston airport, at the Istanbul airport, they stopped me. Now the only problem was I had a Turkish Airlines flight. My bag was packed up in Kathmandu. It was supposed to come here. So my bag flew on the flight that was coming to Boston. It was already loaded there. Well, they stopped me because, again, it was just a travel document. It was not a passport, so they would not guarantee me entry. So I missed the flight. My flight was already there. Now, at that very same time, MH370, the Malaysian Airlines flight, had disappeared around that time. So again, I don't have a phone. I don't have a purse. All of it is in my luggage, and that luggage is on a flight to Boston. And they stopped me at the airport there. Now, when I talked to those people there, they were like, we can't let you board because you don't have a re-entry permit. So I just told them a simple joke there, which I was getting mentally tough. So I told them, hey, fine, deport me. Where are you going to deport me? If you send me to Bhutan, I'm not a citizen of Bhutan. If you send me to Nepal, you guys brought me in saying I was not safe there. So where do you want me to go? So finally, they kind of told me, hey, you can take the next flight to Boston. We'll clear you. Customs clear you. But the flight is tomorrow. So I told them, hey, then give me a hotel room outside. They said, when you go outside of the airport, you have to stamp a visa. The problem is my travel document was just a piece of paper. Where are they going to stamp a visa? So I just told them, send me on the next flight, wherever it's going in the US. Now, I didn't know because, I was just in the US for maybe 1.5 years. And as a new person, I didn't know where the West Coast and the East Coast meant. I just knew Boston and New York, that's it. So that's what I told them, hey, I want to go to get the next flight. They said there was a flight coming to New York City, and I was like, fine, I'll just go. So again, I have nothing. So if you just want to imagine it, I'm just walking outside, and then I came to JFK and then landed in JFK. So if you come to the airport, there are 2 lines, if you kind of see on top. It says US citizens and green card holders, and then it will say foreign nationals. I didn't know which line to catch, because I didn't have a green card. I was on a travel document. So I asked one of the officers, and he's like, just go up front. I didn't realize that there was a scanner where you scan passports when you enter. So I went there, everyone is scanning passports, so I just scanned that paper that was with me, and nothing scanned, of course. I was just so nervous. And then there was an officer who was just hanging out there, and he came, and then he was like, okay, fine, you can go in. So I went inside. Remember, I didn't have a purse. So I was like, where am I going from here? How am I getting home? So I told the officer, he tied me up with social services at the airport. They gave me a ticket for the subway, and then they told me, hey, this is the subway, this is the map, you go here, your bus to Boston is tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. So at that time, it was 11 o'clock at night. So then I, just got on a subway, and then they had told me, don't lose the ticket, because, when you enter, you're supposed to get out. So I kept the ticket safe. The next day morning, I got to Boston, and then at home, everyone was crying because, the flight, the MH370 had just disappeared. They could not reach me. Well, my bag was not there either. I was supposed to arrive like 2 days ago. This guy is still not yet here. So after I went there, so I had graduated from med school, and then now I was looking for a residency. While I was there in New Hampshire, I was working as, a medical caseworker for a resettlement, agency that used to send people to a particular clinic there. That clinic had a residency program, so these guys knew me well. When I told them about my story, they told me, you can't apply when you're 2 years out of med school. So I told them, hey, I just graduated, and they said no. I'm like, your graduation year is 2014 and not 2016. I said, fine, how would you anticipate someone to move to the US, do all of your steps here? So there are four, there was, now one of the exams is gone, so 4 residency tests, and then apply and then secure a seat within 2 years. It's not possible. They said, fine, and so I just moved on. So along that way, there were so many people that told me you cannot get into the US residency system, it's very tough, and you are way out of med school. Well, I didn't lose hope. I kept moving forward, and then I finally got a position in Nashville. I think all of you have heard about Vanderbilt. I did some of my training at Vanderbilt, but my primary residency was Meharry Medical College. First year in internal medicine residency, really brutal. Second year, and guess what? The third year, I was awarded the best resident. Okay. So the message that I want to give all of you is, every day is designed for failure. That's how you should take it, not designed for success. Every day you get up, every day is designed for you to fail every moment. You should take it that way. Then only can you look at failures and achieve success. Because if you think that every day is designed as a success story, it's not going to happen. You are just going to be frustrated. So for the youth, my message is plain and simple. Start your day as if you're going to fail every moment. That's when you will strive to be successful and move ahead. People are going to talk to you about everything that you do, even the way you're dressed, the way you talk, the way you walk. Let them talk. People who spoke bad about me at that time don't talk to me these days. I don't ignore them, I talk to them. They just don't want to talk to me. That's a whole different story. But don't be bothered about what people talk about you. You should just be focused on your goal in life and just move on. I think my time is up, but best of luck, everyone. I hope to come and talk to you again. If you have any questions, I'm on Facebook. You can reach me there. I also do train NPs and PAs at my current job. I'm an adjunct faculty at where I work. So if anyone wants any support with that, if anyone has any questions on how to enter into careers, I'll be more than happy. My service is for free. I don't charge anything. So make the best use of it. Thank you.
So, if you have questions for Dr. Chuan, I know we have a lot of med students here, pre-med students here. So if you have any questions for Dr. Chuan, I will open the floor for 1 or 2 questions. Okay, Mr. Adhikari.
Thank you, Dr. Chuan, for your insights and medical perspectives that you have, directly put forth the idea about and your whole life experience coming to United States of America, and how the life has been for you. And when someone speaks something, we get to know some ideas and their experience, their reality, how people have overcome those challenges. And my question to you is, I have a lot of young generations of people, especially youth from age 20 to 30 in between. They come and ask about pursuing career in medical, sectors, but not knowing exactly how to navigate the systems and the residency thing, and cumbersome years of classes and course to be completed on that part. So as a Nepali who could speak Nepali, what should be your advice to those youth, group of people who are willing to pursue career in medical areas?
Okay, so we have a couple of MDs here, including Dr. Saigal and Dr. Katel. So they will attest to me. If you are, first of all, I want students to really understand what they're getting into. I want you to understand what the process involves. So if you kind of think about it, here in the US, it involves about 4 years of undergrad, another 4 years of med school, and then 3 years of residency before you even start to practice. So if you kind of factor that into, it's 11 years of medical education. So which means in 11 years, you're not making a dime. You are just accruing interest on what you have. And you don't practice medicine for making money. I want that to be very clear. You practice it for, as a part of your passion, or, if you really want to serve humanity, that's what it's for. Because, doctors don't make a lot these days. If you are a businessman, in 11 years you can run $1 million business instead of going into medicine. So I want you to be very clear on that. Is first, know what you're getting into. It is a very noble profession. It is a lot of satisfaction, but it's also a lot of hard work. Just think that both of your friends and you went into med school at the same time, or you went into college at the same time. Now your friend has already married, has a house, has kids. You are still in residency. So. I really want people to understand that, because, I don't want people to just quit, after a couple of years, knowing what they didn't get in, they didn't know the whole story about it. But again, saying that, I would encourage everyone to get into med school. That's one of those reasons why I'm an adjunct faculty right now. I want more people from our community and other immigrant communities to come across. I'm also a fierce advocate of medical education. I have been to Washington, D.C. a couple of times and spoken with senators, advocated about medical education. There, if you go to Washington, D.C., which Kailas has, I met him last time there in D.C., is the power of lobbying. We cannot achieve that power of lobbying if we have a lot of people who work in entry-level jobs. We need to have a lot of people work as professionals or go into professional careers to achieve that. I'm not just talking about the Bhutanese community, I'm talking about other immigrant communities too. So if you really want to uplift the community as a whole in the future, have that lobbying power of making things better for your community, talking about representation and things like that. We really want people to pursue careers that are more professional. I just don't mean to say you need to come into medicine. You can go into any professional careers. I was very happy to learn that someone is doing some law here today. Again, that's unheard of. In my community, if you're born a female, you're a nurse. If you're born a male, you're a doctor or an engineer or a pilot. Those are not the only careers that you can get into. But again, yeah, it's a tough ask. Dr. Cattell knows better than me in terms of medical education here. He can help you out, so you can direct some of your questions there. I will be happy to help. You guys can call me, have questions. I'm on Facebook again. You can text me there, and if you want, I can come and talk to you guys about how to get into medicine, how to share your story. Again, storytelling is a big thing in terms of interviews. So I would advise young people to really focus on how to tell your story, because that's how you make yourself different from other candidates. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any more questions for Dr. Chuan? Looks like none, so really thank you for your great speech.
All right, thank you for having me here today. And yeah, if you have any questions, always feel free to text me. I see a lot of familiar faces here, so congrats.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chuan, for this really, really insightful speech. And I want to take a moment to appreciate Himalayan Care Center here and Mr. Adhikari back in the room for giving us this grand space. So if you want to know about any of the service Himalayan Care Center provides, please go reach out to Mr. Adhikari over there and in the back. So thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move right along to our last main things for the event today. That is going to be stakeholder panel led by very good friend Arati Chapagai. So Arati on the stage now. Up on the stage.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? Okay, yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Aditi Chapagai. I'm a recent graduate of The Ohio State University with a degree in psychology. And today on the stage, I would like to welcome Dr. Amina Kimavo, who is, sorry, she's coming up. Sorry, I wanted to say the information as she comes up, so. No, you're good. She is the vice president of the Adam H. Foundation, and she has held various positions and has done various advocacy work throughout the Columbus community and also within our Bhutanese community as well. And next up, we have Stephanie Mitchell, who is a dedicated attorney and assistant director at NAMI Franklin County. She focuses on mental health advocacy. And last but not the least, our very own Sudarshan Pakiril, who is the executive director of BCCO. He's coming up. Mitchell. Okay, so that is my bad. Instead of Sudarshan Pakiril, we'll have Dr. Sehgal up here on stage. Before I begin my questions, I would like to invite you all to give a brief introduction about yourself and also what you hope to learn or what you've already learned from today and what you'd like to share.
Hey, I am Taru Sehgal, and I am a primary care and gender-affirming care physician at The Ohio State University. I teach med students, and I am in one of the admissions committee, so if you have any questions about what we look at when you're trying to get into med school, I can give you some insights. And then I've done some research in community health. So that's my short introduction.
I had to look at the time. Good afternoon. We've been here since morning. This has been wonderful. And thank you so much, Sudarshan, the whole BCCO team, for just allowing us to be with you today. I go by Dr. K, so feel free to just say Dr. K. It's a lot easier. And I am the Vice President for Advocacy and Engagement at the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board of Franklin County, also known as Adam H. And our H stands for Help, Health, Healing, and Hope. That I can stand behind. That's powerful. I'm very excited to be here. I just really wanted to be able to sit at your feet and just listen and learn, because the role of our board, while we don't provide direct services, we do fund community behavioral health centers that do. We are administrators, and so our role is to plan, to fund, and to evaluate the behavioral health services that are happening in Franklin County. So I was so glad to just listen and now be able to share. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Mitchell Hughes. I am the Assistant Director at NAMI Franklin County. NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and I am the Assistant Executive Director of the Franklin County affiliate. I do want to thank you for inviting me to come and to serve on behalf of NAMI. NAMI provides education, we provide advocacy, and we provide support for individuals and families who live with a mental illness or are affected by a mental illness. The thing that I've observed today is the more things change, the more that they remain the same. because I'm a lawyer. I have been a lawyer for a very, very long time now. And I'm also a person with lived experience, meaning that I have lived with major depression and I have lived with what I call generous episodes of suicidal ideation for about 45 years. And as I was listening, especially to the young women who were up earlier this morning, and they were talking about being able to talk to their parents and trying to figure out how do you talk to your parents about your mental illness and how you're feeling and what have you. That's my experience. And my first episode of with a mental illness and my first depressive episode that I can remember is when I was 15. And I was 15 in 1978. And at that time, I certainly did not have language to go to my parents, to describe the way that I felt, to talk to them about it, none of those things. And so what I learned how to do without having any formal diagnosis of depression was how to cycle out of those episodes fairly quickly. And so I've had, I write about this widely on my own platform and have done so and been telling my story for about 10 years now. And one of the primary reasons that I write about, episodes of being suicidal, write about living with depression, write about a lot of the experiences that I've had is because in 2006, I discovered, quite by accident, I guess, that I had been deeply depressed for at least 10 years, and I didn't know it. And there was a person who did know that I was depressed, a practitioner, a therapist, but she did not pull me aside and say, do you realize that you're depressed? And so, I can tell a lot more about my story if people want to know, but that listening to the young women, it's the more things change, the more that they remain the same, because your experience is my experience.
Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing that. I think as a young woman myself, I can relate to that, and I'm glad that we have someone that our community knows to get in contact with and to hear more from. And thank you all for the brief introductions that you have provided. So kind of leaning into my next question here, as you've all been a part of an organization and still are, I would like to ask you, what do you think is the next step, like a natural next step for immigrant and refugee population to take in addressing mental health issues and also tackling mental health issues?
So I think the first next step for me is the shared problem that I'm seeing here with young adults is that their families are not at the same page about mental health. And that's a big problem because you're kind of shouldering everything by yourself. And instead of, going to a therapist and your parents giving in that saying, fine, you can have counseling, talk to this counselor, and dropping you off to a counselor, I think family counseling is a big thing, where families go together and they learn and they talk about it, rather than you trying to initiate a conversation that you cannot potentially navigate very well. It's important that families go together. And I understand that there are constraints, there are financial constraints in this country, that it's not easy for families to just go and get counseling and then pay the bill. And that's why the community resources become so important. And that's why these conferences become important, where you recognize that there is Dr. Chauhan, you can call him, you can talk to him, Sudarshan is there, or other resources are there which are not costly and you can still access them. And you can go with their families and talk to them. So I think that is the first next step, that not just you knowing, but the families learning together and talking about it together with a third person who can navigate those barriers for you.
The question one more time, make sure I hit all the points.
You're good. in tackling and addressing mental health issues with refugee and immigrant populations?
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking about this from different lenses. I'm hearing this lovely direct service lens that I'm very familiar with, so I really appreciate all of that. And then I'm thinking about, you know, just the role of the board, of the Behavioral Health Board of Franklin County, as administrators that are responsible for our community behavioral health services. We have to do things like listen, to actually understand what the need is. But because we cannot tackle this or address this individually, we have to collaborate. So those of you who know me, I know Stephanie knows this, I am very action oriented. I would not have shown up on time today, staying till the end, if this was not important, not just for me, but for everybody at our board that I'm carrying all these messages back to say, hey, these are some of the top priorities that we need to be looking at addressing for this particular population, fill in the blank. That is very critical, but because we can't do it alone, I'm literally relying on every single person in this audience to be like, hey, this is an issue. This is where we stand. This is what we've tried. This is what we need more of. We need more funding. We need more access. We need more support. Whatever those variables are, do not be afraid to reach out to the folks in the county who are actually by law responsible for planning, for funding, and for evaluating the very services that everybody has already shared that we are all in need of. So I think from that administrative perspective, we're looking at holistic strategy that we can fund, that we can get out into the community, and that it can have a significant impact.
One of the things, and this is another observation that I have made, I read some of the materials that accompanied the invitation, and I think that in terms of looking at next steps, I think it's important to also recognize how much of some of the mental illnesses, mental health challenges that are just really in the very DNA that is passed down from generation to generation within your community. And so NAMI has been privileged, along with Arc Builders, we have been privileged to work directly with the Bhutanese Nepali community. And we want to be able to continue and plan to continue to support the work that you are doing and to help to facilitate that work when and wherever we can. And so the next step is to, from my vantage point, is to continue doing the work that we are doing. Because by hopefully by amplifying, we will then begin to expand more and more. The other thing that is important and to also highlight is the work that NAMI does. We have support groups. We have Ending the Silence. That is in high schools. It's for high school students. We want to expand that or extend it to middle school students. We also have family education seminars that we hold 4 times a year. And the subject matter that is covered in the seminars are directed and are basically given to us, asked of us, by the families who we serve. There is family support, the family to family support group. There's mentoring. There's peer support. And then we just have a number of different support groups that meet weekly, both by Zoom or virtually and also in person. And so if you go to the NAMI Franklin County website, namifc.org, then you can see and get the calendar and see when the different support groups that apply to you, when they are meeting, and then begin to take advantage of some of that. The last thing I will say is I'm a really big proponent, if you don't know this by now, of storytelling. Storytelling saves lives. And I'm going to give a plug for a project that I did about 8 years ago. They did bring this to Columbus, but for whatever reason, I don't know why, they did not continue it. But I think that given the nature of your community, you may be interested in pursuing it. And it is called This Is My Brave. And This Is My Brave brings people together to tell their stories about living with a mental illness, being affected by a mental illness, and they tell their stories using whatever medium they have. So I actually told a story. There were other people who played instruments. There were other people who, they just did a number of different things. And you had to audition, and This Is My Brave has a framework and other types of things, a roadmap that will tell you how to put a show on. But it may be something that could be a starting point for your community, because then from that you maybe could start having a conversation. So that, I don't know if that's helpful or not.
That is, thank you. And I hope you all caught on to the resources that they shared. I know here we addressed how to address mental health and family, and also how to tackle mental health with additional funding, Dr. K, and also on an individual basis what you can do to help yourself with your mental health. So thank you all for sharing those resources. And to kind of lean into what Dr. K was saying, I would like to raise this question to all of you. So as an organization, and even as starting an initiative, we all need funding. Even for the event that we held today, we needed funding. We were running around, finding our connections, leveraging those. So just from your standpoint and from your experience, could you all please share a little about how your organization has prioritized its funding, especially regarding mental health in the refugee and immigrant population? And if you could be more specific, especially in the Bhutanese community, if you'd like to share that, please.
Well, with respect to the way that we have used our funding, NAMI relies upon resources from a number of different entities, including Adam H. And we have done, and I'm not going to say this properly because I cannot remember, but we did it was an event that helped to prepare different immigrant communities, particularly the Bhutanese community, to show you how to create and establish the foundation to do the work, to do businesses and to do work, to support yourselves and to support the community. And I cannot remember the specifics of it right now. So all I can say is that I have brain fog because I have long COVID. But we have that type of an activity. There are other things that happen, such as doing, and this is with Jihad, Digital Dilemma, where young people put a small conference together to talk about the impact of social media on them and to look at how it affected them and what the solutions were. And so what we do is we provide letters of support so that the Bhutanese community and other communities that come to NAMI can get funding to do work that they have found to be important. Because it's not really about what NAMI thinks that you should do. It is your community, and we are here to serve you. And if we're here to serve you, that means that we're going to ask you what works for your community and work to support you in that. So that is the way that NAMI has done that. Forgive me for my clumsy way of describing the first initiative.
Sure. So regarding the funding, the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board of Franklin County, we have two primary ways that we could help fund behavioral health. I'll say initiatives, programming, and sometimes when folks submit an application for capital dollars to help support or lift the appearance, the space of their current center. Maybe some things have, fallen apart. You need to get some things fixed, but you want to do something like that. So that is an opportunity for funding, because the environment that clients walk into and community members walk into is just as critical as the services that you're providing. And so making sure that the aesthetic of the space itself is welcoming is one key important thing. We also have other larger funding request options. If you go to the Adam H. Board website, there's a drop down and you just click on resources. There's a resource drop down and you'll see different funding opportunities there. There's a funding opportunity for what we call mini grants. Those mini grants are what can help support initiatives like this. Hey, we just want to put together a conference to talk about youth mental health. The limit for that is $4,999. That's the max. So you're like, okay, we need like $2,000, and this is what we would like to do with it in order to prepare for our audience on that particular day. So mini grants are up to $5,000. All of the detail for that is on the website as well. The other size funding grants, you may want to ask for $100,000, for example, to really engage any particular population or community around a particular behavioral health or DEIB related space. And so you can look on the website and look at the criteria for that funding and see if that is something that your organization would like to write a proposal for, so that we can review and talk you through that process. I am always excited when I get to attend our board meetings every month, because when there's funding allocations that have been approved, then the people who are receiving the funding, like NAMI, they show up at the board meeting and they get to hear and listen that the funding that they requested for an initiative they have put so much hard work into has been approved. And so if you're looking for funding or leveraging funding, county dollars, we are levy funded, so that means Franklin County voters are the ones that keep us being able to provide these critical services to our community. You can go on the Adam H. website and look under resources. And the other thing I would say in this space is that it is so critical to collaborate. We have a wonderful collaboration and partnership with NAMI. I mean, it goes beyond the dollar sign. It really does. I mean, the different events that are in programming that's offered, it's not just us saying, here's dollars for what you asked for and it falls in alignment with our strategic goals and values. We're saying it does all of that, plus we can see how this is gonna make a future impact in the community.
Hey, so I'm here for OSU, and then I represent BCCO as well. And I'm going to share the same sentiment that when you're applying for grants, you go for national grants or the county money that we depend on, and BCCO often applies for those grants as well. And then comes the philanthropy, like we are here. The Himalayan Care Center has offered this space. And then a lot of our initiatives should also be self-sustaining, where we do not have to necessarily spend a lot of dollars to get the ball rolling, and still the message should reach wider people.
Thank you all for sharing. I know that sometimes funding is such a big struggle, especially for like youth-run organizations and events like these that are also youth-led. So hearing you guys talk about these different types of funds and different approaches that we can take to addressing mental health issues and any other initiatives is very helpful, and I'm sure that a lot of us will hold on to the information and use that in the future. So to kind of go off of that, how do you think that us as youth-led organizations and even community organizations that aren't necessarily fund-rich can leverage the funds that are out there? Like, obviously conferences like these allow us to get to know by inviting people who do hold those funds, but to even in terms of like researching where we can leverage funds for, like where we can find those. What do you think are some tactics or tips that you would like to share?
So one thing is that even maybe BCCO can create a resource where you can see all the funds that are available for, especially for youth-led organizations or organizations that are kind of catering to a particular cause. So you could look them up. Sometimes, there are organizations, OSU or Ohio Health or other places that maybe kind of have a shared commitment to your cause, and you could do that. Collaboration is something that you highlighted that is so important. And then again, networking is one of the underrated things, but it's so important as you're going to Washington, as you guys are, networking here, just make sure that you make those connections and you maintain the communication with them so that when you need them, don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing is they can say no. Right. There is nothing else. Worse can happen.
I have a couple of suggestions. The first suggestion that I have is get on the listserv for probably every federal entity connected to SAMHSA or minority mental health. Just get on those listservs because they send out an opportunity for drawing down dollars like every week. Like, I'm not joking. Some of this stuff does not fall in, the realm that I'm looking for, but it certainly may fall into the space. And I know BCCO, like you said, it's already taking advantage of a number of these federal grants. But just getting on something as simple as that is really easy. Another thing I want to say about youth is that from a school-based perspective, the Adam Age Provider Network that I held up earlier, just on the fly when I knew that y'all needed to know it right at that time. Okay, so inside of here are our list of network providers. So through our network providers, Adam H is able to offer school-based prevention services in all 16 school districts in Franklin County. That means that if you are in K through 12, there is a school prevention officer, resource officer, specialist, prevention specialist, that's certified, that is in your building and able to connect with you. And what is prevention when it comes to youth? We're talking about hopefully addressing things before they become a crisis. So anti-bullying. Instead, how about be kind? So these are all curriculum-based prevention modalities that are shared throughout all the districts for students at all times, so that there's that one key person that you would be able to connect with in that space.
And I'm just going to take a step or a piece from both Dr. K and, I'm sorry, Dr. Sagal. Thank you. I am a big proponent of collaborating and networking. I mean, networking. It's like almost like creating a foundation and then just continuing to build it up. So there are just a couple of things aside from the collaborating and the networking. There is, and I mentioned this before, ending the silence, sources of strength. That's through Arc Builders. These are programs for high school students. And Sources of Strength deals with suicide prevention, and it is a curriculum. It's an evidence-based, culturally competent, national curriculum that is used. The other thing that I will strongly suggest, and this kind of falls in the category of collaboration, is every Wednesday, RI International, in partnership with SAMHSA, they hold something called the 988 Crisis Jam. It is an hour. It is an information-packed hour from 12 to 1. And it has become my new go-to because it's like Dr. K has said, I get so much information and learn so much from best practices that are happening all over the country. And so the Crisis Jam has been going on now for, I think, about 3 years. And you can find their episodes, earlier episodes, on the YouTube channel. And so that would be something else I would suggest for young people, is the Crisis Jam.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Clearly, there's a lot we can learn from you all, so thank you. And I think to Dr. K's point, there is a lot of restructuring that we have to do when we're addressing mental health. Like, for example, instead of saying don't bully, we say be kind. And to that point, actually, I have a question. What are some advice or tips you have for us youth advocates when we're addressing mental health issues and very sensitive topics like anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and a lot more issues that come along in our community?
So I'll just say this. I am one of the folks at the board who's leading our workforce development plan. I've heard a lot today about language being a barrier. We've been saying for years, I will say this as a black female, I want to walk into a mental health center and see someone who looks like me, who talks like me, who sounds like me, who gets me without me having to say too much, because they understand a cultural perspective of who I am and how I'm showing up into that environment. And so when we talk about our workforce at the county, we talk about diversifying our workforce because I feel like true equity is received when anyone from any country with any native language can walk into any community behavioral health center and be able to receive services, not just in their language while they are speaking, because just because you can speak the language doesn't mean you know how to write or read a language. Right? And so I've experienced that in counseling as well, because I've had to sit back and walk through a lot of paperwork with folks. And I'm thinking, wow, where's the equity in all this? Like, what if somebody could just walk in, see their native language on paper the same way that I do, and see a clinician, be it a doctor or a counselor or a social worker, and connect with them in my same native language? That is my dream for Franklin County. It is my dream for Franklin County and our workforce, but we cannot do that alone. So one of the things I think for sure, and I'm coming for you, that our youth can do and our young adults as aspiring professionals, if you are sick and tired of the state of mental illness and addiction in the United States, then you are the one to change it. If every single person in here became a licensed something, certified something, peer support specialist in one way or another, do you know what that would mean to our workforce? And how much better our community would feel when they get to seek services? Because a lot of those barriers that I've been hearing you all say, and I'm taking really good notes because I gotta go back, a lot of that could be minimized or completely reduced or gone. And so I think that my charge in the space would be that if we are wanting more for our communities, then that means that we actually have to be the one to do more. If you're not seeing it happen, what can you do to make it happen?
So for me, it's a two-part question. So the advocacy for yourself, for each one of you at home, with your friends, with your parents, that's one advocacy, and then advocacy is at your organization level or at the state or the city level. At the home, I would say that when you try to bring a change slowly, it's a good change, it's called a progress. When you try to bring a change suddenly, that's called revolt. You're not going to revolt against your families. You're trying to bring that change with understanding, with discussion. And I'll tell you this with an example. My 5-year-old was diagnosed with ADHD, and I was heartbroken. I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I have created. How can something be wrong with him? He's perfect. And I was a physician, I could see it, but I was in denial because I just didn't want to see it. It took me a year. It was a journey to realize that me not putting him on medications that he absolutely needed was actually hurting him because I didn't want to grow. But it took him at 6 years of age to come to me and tell me that, Mommy, I don't like this. And that made me put him on medicine. So I think it's communicating also is a very big part of it. And I am so proud of all of you that you have that language, that you can communicate. No parent wants their child to be suffering. So just make sure that you are communicating. And they may dismiss it like I did for an entire year, but then again, that change will come. So that's at a personal level of advocacy. At an organizational advocacy, again, there is a power in numbers, so make sure that all of you as a community get together, host these events, market those events. It's not just important in doing it, you have to market it. And there is no shame in marketing it because it's so important to make it visible. And it's so important to be heard wide and loud. So.
I'm going to say that my suggestion is that you keep doing what you're doing. I am extremely hopeful about the young people and the youth in terms of mental health and well-being, in terms of creating and initiating systemic change. I talk a lot about mental health and well-being in the legal community because dealing with lawyers and lawyers taking care of their own mental health it's a very, very difficult nut to crack, so to speak. But the thing that I oftentimes tell law firms and legal employers is that Gen Z is here. I have a child who is in her 3rd year of law school. She's a Gen Z. I have a millennial, and what have you. But the millennials and the Gen Z children who we have raised are demanding that we create and hold space for them so that they can take care of their own mental health and well-being. So you are asking, in some instances, demanding that this happen and calling people on it. And, you know, and when people groan about this, my whole thing has been, what they will say to you is, get on the train or we are leaving. And if you have a history of not playing well with others, not being nice, you might get put off of the train. So I am very hopeful and confident in the youth because you've created a platform. You have started. We all have to start somewhere. And so I'm hopeful for you, and I'm going to encourage you to keep doing what you are doing.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts. I know to Dr. Seigel's point about addressing change in the home, it really is a progress. I think we all can relate a lot to that. When we expect sudden change, it's suddenly a fight versus when we're educating and taking that slowly and understanding perspectives from both sides, it does create slow progress, but nonetheless, it is progress. And as Dr. Chuan said, what the mind doesn't know, the eyes doesn't see, and that doesn't just apply to us, but also to the other party, which I think is a very important thing to hold on to. I truly learned a lot during this panel and throughout this conference. Thank you all for coming up on stage with me. A big round of applause for them, please.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for that great, insightful conversation. Thank you to Arati, Dr. Sehgal, Dr. Kay, and Stephanie for those informational conversation. So we're going to do something fun now before we end our conference. So we asked everyone to put their raffle on. So we are going to be picking winners for 2 laptops and 1 care package. So I guess if you stay till to the end of the conference, if you win this thing, it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to call up on stage Srizana Bastola, who has been our leader, who helped organize all this event here. So great round of applause for Srizana too. So you'll have do you just pick? Okay.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna pick a lucky winner, I guess. So.
First off, for the care package, Srizana is going to be picking.
Okay, so the care package consists of canvases, paints, and a travel reading light. So let's see who wins.
Let's see. Round of movement of, what is it called? Movement of pause. It has been a long day.
So the number that we're gonna announce is 7300331. Does anyone have this raffle?
If 730031 is here, please come and claim your prize. Woo! One of our volunteers for the day.
Okay.
He has been helping us since this very morning. So thank you to Bai. What is
Samir.
Thank you to Samir, our winner for a care package. A round of applause for Samir.
Okay.
So now we will pick winner for 2 HP laptops.
Okay.
2
so
HP laptops.
We're gonna have 2 winners, just to clarify.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Just to make sure everybody thinks it's fair.
So the first number we have is 73005.
Where's mine?
What?
Are we verified or
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. He has been volunteering since this morning. Thank you very much, Bai.
Okay.
So one last winner.
Okay.
Shuffle.
Shuffle. Okay. We're shuffling, guys.
To make this representative of the entire
Yeah.
conference attendees. 2 volunteers have already won, so last winner.
Last but not least, we have 73004.
We need how to play this. C has also been volunteering since this very morning. So thank you, Srizana, and congratulations to all the winners. It has been a long conference, but insightful conference. So thank you to all people that contributed to this conference. So now we have a closing remark from soon to be Dr. Mr. Zuma Acharya, a board chair for BCCO.
I bet I cannot be a best speaker than any other speakers we have today, but I will try to win that prize because we have one more prize at the end for the best speaker, hopefully. Am I right, Kamala? No? Okay, never mind then. Okay, my name is Jubanath Acharya. Thank you, Dinesh, for speaking today. First of all, I want to start because one thing I want to remind is the 2 proudest person in your life is your teacher and your parents. I was immensely emotional and also very delighted to see my Dinesh speaking here in front as a Dr. Dinesh. What a proud moment. And I hope every parent, every teacher have that feeling when they see their students being so successful. He had a long struggle. I know the visa thing. You have shared the story. And finally, it became my joy, which is another honor. So I'll go from there. So this today has been one of my favorite weekend I usually spend. Most of the days I spend my weekend driving around getting groceries for the weekend, taking my son to the park for 2 hours, and then wrapping up my day. But today, it was such an honor to be in front of these young minds, to listen to them, what they have been through and what they are proposing for us to see our future look like. I'm so thankful to all of you, the organizing committee. We may not have seen each other. We know by email and names, right, Kamala? And I know Srijana Bastola emailed me. I responded her, but I only know I saw her today. We live in a very close connected community where we tend to know each other. But I think COVID taught us so many things. One good or bad thing it taught was to be virtual for most of our time. So being real, being here together was another awesome moment. Thank you, everyone. But I want to start thanking Himalayan Care Center for providing us this beautiful space, spacious space for us, so we can run around, do a marathon, take ample of breaks for getting whatever we have to take care. Thank you very much for your offering. This was wonderful. I also would like to thank Ohio State University College of Social Work. I'm so proud of it. They are there with the table. There are so many people to thank about today for hosting this event. First of all, Sudarshan, thank you for your insight, for this vision, and your team who put together this event. Without your leadership, this would have not come to this end. But this is just a beginning. I promise this is a beginning, and we'll see this kind of in the future in more vibrant way, in a bigger, grand way. And I'm hoping that Himalayan Care Center will keep helping us in hosting this event. Once again, very huge thank you to you all. To all the providers, ADMH board, NAMI Franklin County, I'm also a part of NAMI Franklin County, and everybody, our sound system brothers, who not to thank here, you all, and on top of everything, the parents of young minds who are here, who allowed you to come and join us here, give your presentation, speak in front of this huge crowd, be that strong. I didn't have that courage to speak to people when I was that young. But you guys are so awesome. Thank you so much. But I want to specifically thank some of the people who are here, the keynote speakers. I think you spark our mind and our young people's mind. And you'll see some of these people will be following your footprints and will be speaking like you in the years to come. I definitely hope that is going to come true. Thank you, Dr. Siegel, our board member, for initiating, representing the board and being here throughout the day. I know we all have a busy schedule, but despite of that, to be present in this event for this long means a lot. It really values, and we truly value your presence, everybody's presence. Leela, your presentation was wonderful. I think we all need to learn more about what is happening. Research is the most important aspect of seeing how community is growing and what is there available and how can we be a part of that. Thank you for doing that research, and there are so many things coming out of Leela's publication very soon. I am very thankful to Dilasa, Meera, and Arati for this hosting this kind of panel is not an easy thing to do. We can, sometimes we may think, oh, I can handle it. But when you sit on that chair and start holding that mic, you know what happens. But you are very courageous. Kamala, you are courageous too. Needless to mention, Kailash, you are the winner. Okay? Thank you for doing that. And panelists who spare your time today with us, sharing your insight, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your experience, expertise, and wealth of knowledge. I'd like to thank all the volunteers, organizers once again, inspiring, very, very inspiring speakers, all three doctors. We salute you, and we hope to see you in our future event too. To all the vendors, to the food providers, and everybody, if I miss anybody's by name or by person, please. Yes, you're there. I see your hand, even if I don't know your name, I see your hand. Thank you very much. So, to end this, I just like to say one quick thing is, mental health is what Dinesh said earlier. If your mind is not really realizing, you don't see it. Keep that thing in mind as you walk out of this room today. And be advocate of yourself, but at the same time, don't hide mental health issues. This is something that we have to take like any other illness. So be a part of that advocate. Thank you once again. And I'm leaving it here, but I really want you all to walk out of this room with something today that you didn't know. You came with something blank space and you filled it up today. Thank you all inspiring speakers once again, host, and everybody in this room. And I hope you all will have a good, wonderful evening. Thank you. Thank you, Dinesh, one more time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jumalacharya, for those closing remarks. So I want to take a quick moment to thank all of our sponsors and all the supporting hands playing to make this event. Thank you very much, Adam Board. Thank you very much, Arc Builders. Thank you very much, CareSource. Thank you very much, Arogya Wellness. Thank you to NAMI. Thank you to Columbus Public Health. Thank you to Argyle Institute. Thank you to BCCO. And last but not least, not the official sponsor, but thank you to the Police Student Association at Ohio State, providing those expertise and minds. Almost like half of the room was from Ohio State. So thank you to that, and thank you to College of Social Work from Ohio State University too. So thank you to all people here. So as we leave, thank you to the Dais here all the way from Cincinnati, RK Brothers here from Cincinnati, NK Brothers, I'm sorry, not RK Brothers, NK Brothers from Cincinnati providing us with this wonderful sound and wonderful Zoom and Facebook Live that I hope people are watching. Hopefully people are watching. So yeah, thank you to everyone. And as you leave the room, don't forget to stick it to the stigma in the Stick It to the Stigma board. Thank you all for coming. It was wonderful hosting you all today. Thank you to Himalayan Care Center and for giving us this space. Thank you to Mr. Adhikari and Mrs. Adhikari down in the back. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.